Okay, we are actually technically live. You can still hear me all right, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so welcome to the very first Business Roots podcast. Business Roots is the podcast of the Business Courtyard, which is a platform for upcoming entrepreneurs and those that are wanting to grow their business. Maybe they know part of the business, but not all of the business, and want to learn the other components. If you're good at sales, maybe not so much at marketing. If you're great at operations, maybe not so well at sales, which actually, um, you want to be. But those things happen. And so the Business Courtyard is here to help that. The Business Roots podcast is to introduce you to people all around the world who are entrepreneurs who have all kinds of scary and exciting and wonderful stories. And I can't wait to introduce you to our first guest, Chris Bayardo. Chris Bayardo is the founder and the CEO of Bayardo Safety, LLC, down in Houston, Texas. Whoop, whoop. So I'm coming from London. So we're on London time at the moment, as well as Houston time. And so the first thing we're going to do, Chris, is we're going to get into understanding a little bit about you. And so you founded a worker credentialing and compliance agency, right? For the oil and
That's
gas sector.
that's exactly correct. You hit the nail on the head. And
So where are you
that
from?
originally from Katy, just out west of Houston. Folks are still out there running their business that they've had going for about almost 40 years now. And so I kind of grew up in the let's do it ourselves, let's build it ourselves, let's be self-employed, let's start a business. And I
So were
got
you
a
in oil and gas to begin with?
no, 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 no.
Really?
To be honest, and I'm not afraid to say it, I did not know if the gas ran above the pipe or below the pipe. And I'll spare you the 2 hour story, but I was really into this backyard remodel construction stuff, outdoor kitchens
Really?
and fire pits, and I was having a ball doing it, and loved what I did. And this guy that I was doing a job for, he's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you, and I'd love to have you on our team," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Yeah, man, I don't know you, so I no." This it was just really random. But
Wow.
essentially, I got recruited into the pipeline sector, and kind of just, my first big leap of faith was giving up everything I knew in the construction world and saying, I'm just going to dive in. And if it doesn't work, so what? I'll go back to what I know. I'll go back to what I'm comfortable with, but I am going to dive in. And I think that's one of the most crucial things that young entrepreneurs, old entrepreneurs, business owners need to really keep in their back pocket is just get
Yeah.
started, just dive in.
How long ago was that you said that?
Almost 20 years ago.
And look at you now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I stayed on that pipeline contractor side, got hired in as a labor hand, and was just,
Wow.
as I say, grunt, um, green hand, didn't know what was going on, didn't have a lot of training, and just dove in. But
So
like
what made you decide then to start Bayardo Safety? What was that kind of aha moment? Were you out in the field? Were you talking about it over beers one night, or how did that happen?
it's kind of twofold. One, I knew there was a niche for what pain points I was experiencing on the contractor side, dealing with all of these. Let's be real, the largest companies in the world. Exxon, Shell, Dow, Oxy, you name it, Aramco, Enterprise, Kinder Morgan, and I knew lots of contractors were dealing with the same struggles. And then at the same time, it was a tough decision because, walking away from benefits and a salary and all of that.
Scary.
Um, yeah, it really is. And I didn't like the direction the company was going that I was working for. I was pretty miserable. Just, it started to weigh on me, and we can talk about our problems, or we can solve our problems. And I've just always been the one that's like, let's go solve for this. I don't mind the tears and the struggle, but the next time we talk, we better be solutioning those things. And that's just the way I'm wired. So I made a decision, went to my wife and I said, hey, I got this idea. I'm going to leave this company, which is how we, pay our mortgage and put groceries in the pantry. And I'm going to start this company. And
Yeah,
here's what we're going to do. And she's like, well, what if it doesn't work? And that was the only time she's ever asked that.
that's cool.
She's been behind me the whole time. I can't do it without her. We're a great team, and I kind of had to tell her, look, if it doesn't work, I'll go back to the contractor side. I'm not job scared, but I know I'm going to hate life if I don't attempt this. So let's
So
jump off the
true.
cliff. Let's take the leap and see if we can build the airplane before we hit the ground. And
And you haven't looked back. I mean,
no,
it hasn't come without its pound of flesh, I'm sure, and we'll get to talk about that soon, but
right,
at least you did it and now you know. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, everyone's scared because, the entrepreneurial journey starts for people in all different phases of life. Some are 21 and they don't have a lot of responsibility. They don't have a family yet, maybe,
right,
and it is easier to make that leap. But then when you actually have another person in your life that, you know, deals with the consequences of the decisions, it's a lot harder and it can make you scared, to
yeah.
take that leap. And I do know that a lot of people, that I've spoken with through the years, they think that entrepreneurship or starting your own business is an all or nothing kind of thing. And I'm curious your take. Is it an all or nothing thing where you have to drop everything you're doing, or is there a way to ease in and keep your day job while you're trying to sort out the startup?
I think that depends on what your end goal is. And that's, are you starting a side hustle, a little bit of some e-commerce stuff? That's one thing. Are you gonna jump off a cliff and go full-fledged company, brick and mortar, online only? It really depends on what you want to do. And that's why it's so crucial in my mind, to clearly define that first. Understand your problem, understand how you're going to solution it, and just go. You know,
Yes.
Mark Cuban once said, if you're planning your exit strategy, you're not dedicated enough to your business. You don't want it. So I don't know why, but that kind of kicked me in the chest in a good way, and I heard it very early uh, in my days of starting the business, and I just said, okay, full tilt. So
Yeah.
so to answer your question, it was, blood, sweat,
All in.
tears, long hours, long nights, starting the business out of literally the front seat of my truck.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I
So,
had. Go ahead.
question about that. Starting it out of the front seat of your truck, you legitimately had $140 to your name for this, and now
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are a multi-million-dollar business, right?
yeah, yeah. It
How
was.
how did how did that happen? All day, I have all day here.
life happens, bills happen. I knew I wanted to try and be as debt free as possible. And there's good debt and bad debt. This was
Yeah.
something I wanted to just get rid of, and I was trying to put family first and bills, get them taken care of, and all that. Long story short, it's $170 to my name, and I'm filing an LLC, going, what am I doing?
Ah, love
You
it.
the mortgage is due in 18 days, and the truck notes due in 10 days, and you better figure this out quick. Ironically, the company I was working for, they shut down, and so those 300 or 400 workers
Wow.
that were going to me for a lot of these worker credentialing and compliance needs, it was all of a sudden they were going out and seeking employment with different contractor companies.
Got
And
it.
where, for the last 10 years, it was, oh, call Chris, he'll handle it, or let me email Chris, he'll take care of it, or he knows how to fix this.
Yeah.
And so, almost overnight, I had a client base. Um, once they
Wow.
once they shut their doors down, and then it was like, uh oh, buckle up. as this just got very real very quickly. So um,
Wow.
I was very fortunate, and also just insanely, to the point of, I don't know if this is mentally healthy. I was I was insanely driven, and still am. And that's the ticket. You gotta love what you do. You gotta want what you want to do, and you gotta have the what to get out there and chase it. Because
Yeah,
nobody's
you can say
nobody's
it.
gonna do it for you.
Yeah. So, question on these podcast episodes, I'm going to ask everyone what the same three questions. And the first one is, what is your wildest story? What is something as an entrepreneur that most people in maybe corporate America would not fathom seeing in the entrepreneurial world?
Um, I've got quite a few. Some stem from business orientation to some of the really really unfortunate things I've had to see and witness on project sites. But that's part of the job, and it's not always easy. So one of the wildest things was actually really recent, and I kind of like that it was recent. I don't like that it happened. But I started my day. This was literally a few days ago with a phone call from a client,
Yeah.
rather large client, and this is a C-suite level employee there, top of the food chain, calls me, and I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And they are seething mad. They are fuming, and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! Back up. What happened? What's going on?"
Yeah.
Come to find out, um, he was some of the first words out of his mouth were, we're going to cancel. We don't want to stay on board. I can't, I'm not happy, blah blah blah. So I got him to explain the problem to me, and when I
Hmm.
understood what the problem was, it was him feeling like he was being spoken ill about. And
Wow.
unfortunately, it was him feeling like he was being spoken ill towards one of our employees on our team. So that's a big uh-oh.
That's
Um,
tough.
and it also happens to be, let's add a little salt to it, that the communication that was, I guess, that came to light was
Hmm.
between one of my team members and one of their ex-employees. And however that communication was intercepted, I couldn't tell you, but he calls me and he's seething mad that this conversation was going on with these two people about him.
Wow.
I said, "Hey man, I get it." So here I am, and they're a multi-tier client, so we have multiple accounts with them,
Ah,
which is great.
yeah.
There lives the 80/20 rule, but we can dive into that later.
Yeah.
Um, so I immediately go into damage control, and I need to understand the problem. I need to solve for it with him, not BS him, because this guy's obviously really upset. And the wild part about it is not necessarily that it happened, but in less than 10 minutes, I'm on the phone with this guy, and I go from, we're about to lose two or three big pieces of revenue here. That's such a doom
The
and gloom
worst.
feeling. But instead of panicking and freaking out and just tucking tail and saying, "I'm sorry," of course there was, some apology within the communication that something like that even happened. The wild part, and I shit you not, I went from being 5 seconds away from losing a client to actually upselling that client and generating more revenue from that customer. So,
Wow.
so to all the folks out there that have struggled, and you got to keep someone happy, you have to be a yes person. Well, I mean, this was a top dog literally
Yeah.
chewing through my ear, and I kind of flipped the script,
Golly.
listened to what he had to say, took it to heart, um, got him talking, and figured out, listen, we can really help you despite what's going on here. This is just side noise. Let's start looking at what's really important to you here. I
Yeah.
can solve for this immediately. This person, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of that on my end, but my goal is not that. My goal is to make sure your team is okay, that you're in this green light compliance program for a reason. You can go to work and put boots on the ground with every operator you're connected with because you're in good hands with our compliance team. And
Yeah.
we flipped that script within 10 minutes of conversation, signed a larger revenue work agreement with the client, and we're off
Yeah.
to the races. So to me, that was
It is a
pretty
testament
wild.
to how many people need to be heard. And, no one likes to feel that they're the topic of conversation, especially in a business setting. But to be able to have a one on one conversation with you as a business owner, knowing what you've done to get there, and then be able to help him through, navigating a just point blank a really sticky situation where in the back of your mind, you're going, I'm going to have to talk to my team. I'm going to have to see how we mitigate this and then be able to kind of get him back into a headspace of thinking about the business. That's quite a skill. That's quite a gift. Okay, second question. Now, this one I think is really important for new business owners to hear about because we've all been there. And a lot of times, kind of even to your point, you leave a company because you didn't like what was going on, or you decide to start your own business because you didn't like, how things were run and you didn't feel heard, and you couldn't affect change. And you see that thing right in front of you. And why can't anybody else see it in the room than this meeting that I'm in? And that sort of pattern repeats itself through the employee being an employee. Um, so, what is the one thing that you would say you carry into business with you now? What is a lesson you've learned, whether you were an employee at the time or maybe through your own business, that has actually changed the way you do business now?
That's a stout question. No softballs here. I love it.
No, no.
But
I'll bring the
but
stout next time.
no. I mean, no softballs. I mean, the program is called Business Roots. So let's dive in. Let's get to the root. And to answer you, I think one thing that I'm really heavily relying on now is you've got to know your floor. And what I mean when I say that is, do I want to be a yes man and take every client under the sun? Well, to the starving artist entrepreneur, that's real. It's really easy
Yeah,
to get into
it
the
is.
of just, yes, we'll do it. Yes, we'll do it. No problem. Yes, we'll lower our price. Yes, we can work with you. Yes, yes,
Scope
yes,
creep,
yes,
not a
yes.
thing. Sure, come on.
Yeah, yeah. So you got to really in business and in your service, from my experience, and trust me, I am not afraid to say that Hard Knocks has been one of my biggest mentors and teachers. Um, I
Yeah.
can't I can't tell everyone what the golden plan is or what the right answer is, but I can certainly tell everyone what not to do. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's a good point of business
and
roots.
to me, it's done me well. And I always tell the team, I learn more from the failures than I do the victories. The victories
Yeah.
really taste great, but it's like ice cream. Nutritionally, they don't really do much for you. It's the failures where you're going to learn what not to do, what didn't work, and why. Because once you learn that, your next steps are just so much easier and clearer, and your path to that revenue driver is just much more easy to navigate. But
Yeah.
knowing my floor means, to me, don't be a yes person. Just don't sell yourself short. Understand um, what it is you're offering, understand the why, and get really good at having the potential client understand that little phrase I call whiff them, and it's what's in it for me. If
Yeah.
they have a clear understanding of what's in it for me, you're in a
Wow.
good place. And if they understand what does a win look like for them, And
Yeah.
what does a win look like for me? That's when the business relationship gets really fun, and that's the client you want.
Yeah.
It
It's
doesn't.
almost future pacing in a way where if you can start with the end in mind and understand that and know what triggers these people, have and need to be able to get into the buying mindset for your service or your product, you're in a really good spot. And wow, I haven't thought about that in a very long time. That is wonderful advice. That
Now,
is know your floor. That's it.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Know your
Okay,
floor.
so you mentioned the green compliance program. What is that? I was wondering a little bit about that from earlier.
So for it stems from my early days on the contractor side, and what happens is, all these different oil and gas companies out there, Shell, Oxy, Dow, you name it. They
Yeah.
all have their sets of needs. They all have their compliance rules, requirements, etc. The beauty part is none of them are on the same page. Not a single one of them. And so,
Interesting.
yeah. So what happens is, imagine you are, Meganberg Pipeline Services, and you're good at sales, and so you go get this contract with Exxon. Well, you guys are high-fiving and getting excited. You a lot of times you don't know what can of worms you just opened up,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now the work agreement is only half the battle. Now we've got to show them we're not some fly-by-night contractor. We're buttoned up. We're well regimented. We have policies and procedures and training and insurance and this and that and that and this. And they want to know your mother's maiden name and her favorite color. I mean, it's unbelievably detailed.
Yeah.
And so on that note, Exxon, for example, will say, look, we've got hundreds of thousands of contractors. We need to manage that somehow. And
Yeah.
to do that, we're going to use this database that is ISNet World. So as a contractor, you can go in and make sure that you're up to snuff with the policies, the insurance, the programs, the training, the records, the OSHA stats, everything, because it'll affect your scorecard within that system.
Interesting.
And if your score is not up to snuff, you're not going to work for them. You will not be allowed on
Wow.
that job site. And if one thing falls off and you're in the middle of a project, it's shutdown time. And that's
They're yanking
extreme.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I mean, without question. And so we prevent that. And we do that with our compliance management services. So Exxon wants to vet you within this ISNet system. Okay, great. But also, you're going to have to do the same thing in a sense with your drug and alcohol data, and that's a different system. Your DOT data, that's a different system. Your background screens, that's so just for one client, you've got 50 hoops to jump through and manage at all times.
So
Now,
you guys do that all together?
correct, correct.
Because I saw when I was looking around, you also do customs because to your point, every
Right.
company has a different set of needs.
Perfect segue. And the custom piece is there because one, nobody was doing it. And I thought, for me, one of my favorite things in the world is positive disruption. And so I started to look at that, let's say that company that gets that contract with Exxon. Well, they also have a contract, and I'll make this up, with Shell, Kinder Morgan, Aramco.
Yeah.
Well, Shell says, welcome aboard. Here's our set of hoops you have to jump through. And, and they're not the same. Kind of like, and people sometimes don't grasp that in its entirety. And an analogy I like to use is, imagine you're out there right out of college and you're applying for jobs, and the employer says, oh, we see you have a degree from the University of Texas.
Mm.
Well, we only accept degrees from A&M.
Mm. Or
So you're
Texas Tech.
right. Yeah. Red Raiders. Is that it? Is that what they do?
Yeah, wreck 'em.
Guns up. And so, you think you've got 10 sets of hoops to jump through for one client, but you've got 10 clients. And so it just gets messy really quick. And it
Got
turns
it.
into this, kind of just this alphabet soup of disarray and chaos on how do we get, you know, everything in line so that we're not going to miss work. We're not going to shut down. Our workers aren't getting canceled off projects, et cetera. And at the same
Right.
time,
That's so it basically creates an operational efficiency to sort of funnel everything together, showcase that, all of these different components will be different, entity to entity. You guys kind of know what those are, can build a framework, custom and specific, and then they can get back to business and make sure that they're keeping compliance and training and all of the other components in place. Wow, that's
right,
awesome.
right. And so we deep dove into, this theory that I had, which was, compliance as a service. And that's
Yeah.
really where this took off. And I had to figure out uh, how to be cost effective.
Mm.
And that's where I'll tie back into, you got to know your floor.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we wound up with a kind of a, let's say, a quote calculator tool where I can take every single detail that this potential client has, or every hoop that they're fixing to have to jump through. I can plug that in, and my system can not only show them and calculate what that cost is, but it also shows, okay, at Bayardo Safety's pricing, if you want to go out and say, well, we want to hire someone to do this internally and we're not going to use a third party or a fractional service, that's fine. I'll support that all day. Go team. But if you want to do that and compare with my entire team, you're going to have to somehow find a subject matter compliance expert, a,
Mm.
a accredited assessment center, an online training LMS, a site safety
Wow.
auditing group, and you're going to have to find one person that'll somewhere in the ballpark do that for $8 an hour, and that's not happening.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and 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 I did that because me personally, I
Mhm.
don't want to hear the words intrinsic value. I just don't. But I want hard numbers. I want real dollars. And so that's what I created for my client, where I can go, look,
These are the bottom line.
you're going to
Wow.
save, if you want to hire someone in house, do it. But if you use us, you're going to save about 50K a year. And not only that, but if you're considering, should we pay for this service or not, or this is too expensive, I really think that's the wrong mentality, because our service isn't expensive. It's cheaper
Yeah.
than what they're spending on coffee and water, literally. The issue comes, and the light bulb aha moment for the client comes when I say, look, don't think about it as this is, something that you're going to spend money on. Think about how much it's going to cost you per day when you're shut down and you've
Mhm.
got 5 welders, 5 welding rigs, 2 dozers, 1 track hoe.
Opportunity cost is lost.
Whoo! I did a
That
small,
can be millions.
yeah. So I did a very small crew, ran the numbers through it, and I found on just a really small niche little maintenance job, in that scenario, they're losing 225K a day. And
Gosh,
I don't care if you're Eddie on the street or Elon, 225K a day is going to hurt
that
the
hurts.
bottom line quick.
Yeah, that hurts.
And so we
Golly.
go,
Wow. Okay. So
it
the
turns
green compliance
into,
program is basically a custom outfit that factors in all the components that you need to make sure that their guys are in good shape to be out on the job across the board, training, compliance, making sure that they're handled in all ways. Wow. I have a
absolutely.
question for you. Um, okay, so you had said that, well, we talked about this a long time ago, Chris, and at the time you had a referral program because obviously in Houston there are a lot of oil and gas people who may not know that this type of stuff exists. So do you still have that referral program or do you have anything like newer
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we started again, kind of this referral incentive based, internally with our team. And, look, if you're at the Pipeliners Association, clay shoot, golf tournament, networking event, mixer, whatever, talking to your neighbor, and you see an opportunity, take it. If we land that client as a monthly compliance account for us, that's $1,000 in your pocket. So
Oh, wow, you're doing 1,000. Wow, that's awesome.
it has to
So if
be
I'm a
in.
new business owner, which I am, by the way, I have a new startup, and I need a little extra cash for my advertising budget, I can go ahead and just refer a few of my friends that I hang out with anyway who are in oil and gas and get a connection possibly. You land a compliance account, and I've got $1,000 to spend in advertising on my ad budget.
That's right. Or
Wow.
like I work with my team, on this program where we're going to sit down and look at what are their personal goals, their professional goals, their financial goals. That's just something I do with my team. And
Wow.
one of our team wanted to pay off all their medical bills. Another team member wanted to be able to sustain a boxing career while working a full-time job.
Wow, that's interesting.
Another one of our team wanted to put their kid in private school, and I'm like, look, here's how you do it. Here
Yeah.
is, go find you some supplemental income. Well, it's in your day to day. And so for those folks that are out there in the BD world, the operations world, sales, I, I don't care if you work at McDonald's. If you
Mhm.
come across the conversation and you want to pursue it, we have a really simple connecting process, and the end result is extra $1,000 in my pocket is nice. I don't know who doesn't want that.
That's the truth.
So
I follow Cody Sanchez. If you've heard of her before, she's a hell of an entrepreneur, and her kind of push is the Main Street Millionaire, and she is hell bent on helping everyday people who have the drive and are entrepreneurs buy businesses from the boomers that are going out. And she points out that a lot of these, boomers are really going to have to put the business out of business because the kid doesn't want them, or maybe the kid has a different type of career, and so there is no real selling unless people like us come along and want to buy them. I'm a big fan of hers. She talks a lot about in the early days being a connector, like what this offers us, this finder's fee thing could offer us is so huge. And she said that it really put like food on the table many times. She would bring in 15,000 a month just on being willing to refer people from, hey, I know you're in oil and gas. I got a guy that can really help with this compliance thing. Look, if it's a fit, it's a fit. If it's not, it's not. But hey, let me open my mouth and say it because it might be worth $1,000. And, with me, I actually, Insperity is a wonderful insurance is a wonderful payroll and HR department company, and they've done so much lobbying across the country. I've worked with them a lot in the startup space, great people. And I referred quite a few different companies, SMEs, kind of middle-sized companies to them. And it was, hey, it was nice change. So I could put that away in savings and then go spend it on my entrepreneurial journey of my own that I wouldn't have otherwise had if I just not opened my mouth. And you just don't realize how many times people might need what you have a resource for, and that to the company who's willing to pay you for that finder's fee, it's a win-win for everybody.
right,
So,
absolutely. And so no, you hit the nail on the head, and offering as an internal opportunity, to be able to look my team in the eyes without any kind of snake oil salesman mentality and say, listen, you guys want a show of hands. Who would like to bump their pay by, I don't know, an extra 52 grand a year? Just boom. Well, that's one sale a week. That's
yeah,
nothing. That's nothing.
that's
So
awesome.
so
Wow. Okay.
we're expanding it into any and everybody that wants to participate. I have the training class ready to go, queued up, the materials ready to go. We make it
Okay,
simple.
cool. Well, you know what we'll do is we'll put the notes how they can reach out to you to kind of get that going. And when they have a referral or somebody on your team, when they have a referral, they can segue and make that happen. So, all of you entrepreneurs out there and anybody watching, if you know people in oil and gas, you absolutely should be thinking about referring them to Bayardo Safety LLC for compliance and all of the things that come along with that and training, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's wrap up here. I have my favorite question of the entire podcast. And we worked on this for a while trying to figure out the flow. And it's our simulator segment. Um, In our simulator segment, what I'm going to do is ambush you with a question, Chris, and see what advice you can give us from all of your experience in the School of Hard Knocks on a really hard scenario that most entrepreneurs, if you haven't yet, sorry to bust your bubble, you're going to probably experience some troublesome times. So, Chris, okay, here's the simulating question. You are less than a year into your business, and your sales projections, if you were good enough to put those together, which you should have been, are 30% behind schedule. So you're not bringing in the cash you thought you would, yet the expenses carry on. You've been working with a prospect for months, and they finally say, hey, look, I'll do the deal, but I have one thing that you have to do. You have to give me a significant discount. So you're running out of cash, you're behind schedule, and someone says, all right, I'll do the deal, but you have to give me a significant discount. Do you do the deal at a significant discount? That's the question.
Two-part answer. The early days, Chris would absolutely take that deal. Absolutely. Because revenue is revenue. And when you're hungry, you're hungry. And when you got to eat, you got to eat. That's it. Now, there's some caveats to that. The second part of the answer, what I know now, if I could go back and have the discipline to know my floor from day one, I would have said something along the lines of, listen, um, you know, you get what you pay for. Good work isn't cheap. Cheap work isn't good. And I've got a framed photo of the guy over here, but y'all might have heard of world famous oil field firefighter, Mr. Red Adair. And
Wow.
Red Adair, I mean, when you're so good at your job that John Wayne plays you in your biopic movie, that
Yeah.
says something. And Red Adair famously said, um, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, wait till you hire an amateur. And
So true.
whoo, I've learned that lesson so many times. So I would
Wow.
I would lean in nowadays to explaining the value add that I'm bringing to the table, the cost savings that I'm bringing to the table, the service level that they're getting that they didn't already have. I would reiterate what their pain points with phrasing like, if I heard you correctly, and I want to make sure I understand your needs to a T, you're going to need X, Y, Z, one, two, and three.
Wow.
We can service that in a turnkey program with simplicity for you. There's no reason this should be messy. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I would start there nowadays. But to be very candid and very real, somebody was like, look, this is a $1,500 service. I've only
Yeah.
got $1,100 budgeted. In the beginning, I would have said, done. Um, and
Wow.
and I would have figured it out from there. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but I will advocate for, you just got to start. You got to get
Yeah.
out there and start. So many people make this push towards, I need to plan X, Y, Z, this, that, the other, and then they never do anything. It's always this planning and when's the right time. There isn't a right time. Just jump off the cliff and build the airplane before you hit the bottom.
Yeah.
That's being an entrepreneur. That's starting a business, no matter who you are. So if you're hungry, take the work. Go do an excellent job. Turn that $2 client into a $10 client, and figure out where you messed up. Figure out next
That's
time
awesome.
how they're a $10 client out of the gate, not a $2 client. But now, stand your ground. Know your floor. Know your service. Know your bottom line. Understand what that BATNA really is, and just take it from.
Wow. Yeah, that's such great advice. And the tie in back to knowing your floor, because I definitely would have said, yeah, yes, I will take it. And, like we talked about early on in the conversation, scope creep is a real thing in a lot of these jobs. And it's so hard when you're in the middle of it and you've committed and the cash is coming and that was your biggest concern. And now you're going, ah, I'll do whatever. But you're right. If you're hungry, I guess it sort of feeds itself and teaches you what your floor is after you get burned a few times and,
Right.
and you work for free almost. But hey, you got the cash so that you can go ahead and do what you need.
Well,
So,
and again, communications like this, the
yeah.
Business Roots podcast, getting out there to be a voice and help these startups and young businesses and current businesses, it's crucial. So I fully support what's going on with the Business Courtyard. I love being a part of it, and I cannot help but think, if I had a resource like that all the way back to 8 years ago, I mean, to be candid, I would be in a different tax bracket right now. And so what you're doing
Wow.
is a massive win. I mean, my accounting
Thank you
group.
for that.
Oh, you're welcome. My accounting group, who's been with me since day one,
That's
they
awesome.
met me, and we started to talk about bookkeeping and this and that. I was like, yeah, I really need some help, but like I can't afford a CFO right now or anything like that. And he was like, well, I have a fractional service and blah blah blah. Let's dive into your books. And he was like, well, why don't we log in? And I was like, log into what? And
Says,
so,
where's your chart of accounts?
yeah,
Wow.
so I literally handed him, and I'm not embarrassed of it. You got to start
I
somewhere.
love it.
I handed him a notepad and said, here's my books, a five-star notepad. I mean, I had clients, jobs,
You're
pricing,
amazing.
and it
Thank
was
you
like,
so much for sharing this. So many entrepreneurs don't know. So many people that are thinking about this, they don't know that that really is how you get started. Pen and paper, talk about cash based. And then
no,
you start figuring out you've got to do all of these things. And,
yeah, yeah. So you're right. It's pen and paper. It's just get started. And I want to share one thing with you on that before we go, if I may. You know, in
please.
in 2019, this bottleneck of kind of the compliance as a service that we were solving on the software side, it's just really messy and really convoluted. So I said in 2019, my goal, my big dream is to start and build the software platform that eliminates that siloed data, solves problems for multiple industries. And so we built it. But when I say we built it, I've never been in a software class. I don't know how to write code. I don't understand graphic design tools. What I do know how to do is walk my ass over to the printer and pull out an entire ream of paper. But literally, I have it. I literally have it where
Wow. That's
I physically hand drew every frame, and I click mapped and storyboarded an entire software platform by hand, then took it to the developers and said, build it.
I love it.
So you don't have to be a
Thanks.
Silicon Valley tech fancy, tech savvy person. You don't have to be a business degree, MBA, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
No, you got to be tough, and you got to have the grit, and you got to have the drive, and you got to be hungry. You got to stay humble. You got to work hard. If you want to be lazy, enjoy cereal the rest of your life. That's great. If you want to work hard and enjoy the steak, I like steak. So
I love it. Well, your story is so incredibly inspiring. And again, I'll drop all of the contact info for you. I mean, are you open to allowing people to reach out and ask for advice from anything that resonated or? Okay,
100%, absolutely, yeah.
got it. Okay.
If I
Well, you
if
hear
I
that,
can help,
everyone? You're lucky because this doesn't happen all the time that you have someone who had $170 in their pocket, goes to building a multi-million dollar company, has an incentive program for you if you know anyone in oil and gas, and also is willing to talk with you if you reach out. So take advantage. Chris, thank you so much for being on this very first podcast episode of its kind for the Business Roots. And there are going to be plenty more to come. And we'll be with you soon, okay? Talk to you guys
hey,
later.
thank you so much for having us. Can't wait to see what you're doing with the Business Roots podcast and the Business Courtyard. I know it's going to be a huge resource. Happy to be a part
Thank
of
you.
it. Talk to y'all
Thank
soon.
you so much, Chris. All right. I'll send everybody notes on how they can get in touch with you and then uh, then it's up to them to take care of business.
Thank you.